The gallery didn't erupt the moment that 47-foot birdie putt dropped. Instead, something far more electric happened. A split second of stunned silence, like the entire course lost its ability to react. People weren't just watching a great shot. They were processing the fact that Caitlin Clark, the same woman who'd already rewritten basketball history, had just crossed into an entirely different arena and done something nobody thought was possible. One putt, one moment, and suddenly every assumption about who she is as an athlete had to be recalibrated. What followed wasn't the usual social media buzz or the polite congratulations you see tossed around after a celebrity appearance. Within hours, Tiger Woods himself stepped forward with a response that stopped the sports world cold. Not a canned line written by a PR team, not a generic shout-out. Tiger, a man who almost never comments on cross-sport performances, made it clear that what Caitlin did wasn't novelty. It wasn't luck. It was a level of athletic precision that demanded respect from the greatest golfer of this generation. And that's when the narrative shifted. People began to understand that this wasn't a feel-good story about a basketball star dabbling in another sport. This was something deeper, an exposed glimpse into what happens when championship DNA spills over into a completely different discipline. Because the score she posted wasn't just impressive for a non-pro. It obliterated a long-standing world record, setting a new benchmark that even seasoned golfers couldn't wrap their heads around. But the real story here isn't the number on the scorecard. It's the blueprint behind it. How an athlete built for pressure, precision, and composure could walk into unfamiliar territory and perform with the same icy focus that's defined her entire career. And that blueprint didn't just appear overnight. It's the result of years of habits, environments, and experiences that shaped who she is when nobody's watching. And that's exactly where this investigation begins. Long before Caitlin Clark became a household name, long before packed arenas and national broadcasts turned her into a cultural force, she was just a kid in West Des Moines with two constants in her life: a basketball in her hands and a golf course practically built into her weekends. Most people only know one side of that story. They know the scorer, the playmaker, the phenom who seemed to arrive fully formed on the hardwood. What they don't realize is that another sport was shaping her just as quietly, carving out the mental framework that would later make her nearly impossible to rattle. Her father, Brent Clark, played a major role in that early foundation. He wasn't just a supportive parent, he was an avid golfer who dragged Caitlin and her brothers to the course with the same consistency other families treated Sunday brunch. While her friends were sleeping in or hanging out after school, Caitlin was learning how to stand over a ball with absolute focus, how to adjust her mechanics, how to stay patient when a swing didn't cooperate. Golf wasn't a hobby for her. Even before age 10, it became a puzzle she wanted to solve, a challenge she couldn't ignore. And that's what separates her development from the typical young athlete. Most prodigies excel early by relying on physical gifts or pure instinct. Caitlin grew up sharpening something much harder to teach: mental discipline. While basketball taught her pace, creativity, and court vision, golf carved out something entirely different: composure, precision, and a relationship with pressure that most players don't build until much later in life. These weren't two separate paths. They were two halves of the same athlete forming in real time. Family interviews over the years paint a clear picture. She wasn't the kid bouncing between sports just for fun. She studied her golf swing the same way she later dissected defenses. She paid attention to angles, timing, and rhythm. Even at a young age, she showed the same obsessive streak that would later fuel her record-breaking performances on the basketball court. And when she talked about the game, she described it in a way that almost sounded like she was explaining her future career. In one early interview, she said something that now feels almost prophetic. "I loved how golf challenged me mentally. It's just you, the ball, and the elements." Look closely at that line, and you see the blueprint right there. Her comfort with isolation, her ability to tune out everything except execution, her willingness to embrace pressure instead of running from it. These traits aren't created on a basketball court packed with 20,000 screaming fans. They're born in the quiet moments, in the repetition, in the hours spent alone with a problem only she can solve. So when people act surprised by her dominance in an entirely different sport, they're missing the bigger picture. She didn't just wake up one morning and magically discover she was good at golf. The seeds were planted long before anyone outside Iowa knew her name. What we're seeing now is the result of years of dual conditioning, two sports building one of the most complete competitive mindsets in modern athletics. And that foundation mattered because when she stepped onto the course for the event that would change everything, she wasn't stepping into unfamiliar territory. She was stepping back into a place that helped create the very competitor she's become. And the stakes waiting for her that day were far higher than anyone realized. When Caitlin Clark arrived at the ANNIKA Pro-Am, most people assumed they knew what they were about to see. These events usually follow a predictable script. Celebrities show up, crack a few jokes, swing a couple of clubs, and hope they can survive 18 holes without spraying too many shots into the trees. It's meant to be lighthearted, entertaining, and most importantly, harmless. But anyone who walked into this particular event expecting casual fun had no idea what they were about to witness.
This wasn't just any Pro-Am. It was a tournament carrying the legacy of Annika Sorenstam, one of the most decorated golfers in the history of the sport. Her name alone raises the standard. The event attracts top-tier professionals, competitive amateurs, and high-profile athletes who know that even though the cameras might be smiling, the expectations on that course are anything but soft. The fairways are demanding, the greens are unforgiving, and the audience is the kind that understands golf at a level where excellence isn't just noticed, it's measured. Walking into that kind of environment requires a level of composure that most non-golf athletes never quite develop. A basketball court thrives on noise, movement, and chaos. A golf course is the opposite. Silence feels heavy, every sound echoes, every mistake lingers. It's a pressure that suffocates even experienced players, and it has swallowed countless celebrities whole. That's why expectations for Caitlin were modest at best. People were excited to see her personality, not her scorecard. But beneath the surface, something else was brewing. The field that day included some of the biggest names on the LPGA Tour, athletes who have dedicated entire lifetimes to the craft. These were competitors with world rankings, major titles, and resumes stacked with achievements most players only dream about. And they weren't there to babysit, they were there to win. Even in a charity event, pride is on the line, and the standard is high. So when Caitlin Clark arrived with her clubs, she wasn't walking into an exhibition. She was stepping into an arena filled with precise expectations, trained eyes, and a competitive pressure few outsiders ever feel. Every swing would be judged, every decision would be analyzed, every mistake would be magnified. This wasn't the kind of stage where a celebrity could hide behind charisma or crowd appeal. Here, only performance speaks. And that's what made what happened next so extraordinary. Because instead of shrinking under the weight of the moment, Caitlin did the exact opposite. She elevated. She matched the standard of the professionals around her and then began to surpass it, shot by shot, hole by hole. The crowd started the day expecting entertainment. Within minutes, they realized they were witnessing something far more serious. And that shift in energy became impossible to ignore once she stepped onto the back nine, where the entire atmosphere flipped from casual curiosity to stunned anticipation. That's when the round transformed from impressive to historic. And it's where everything that followed became the kind of story people would still be talking about days, weeks, and months later. From the very first tee shot, it was clear Caitlin Clark wasn't out there to blend in. Her opening swings had a sharpness that didn't match the relaxed, celebrity-friendly mood of a typical Pro-Am. But it wasn't until she reached the seventh hole, a 347-yard par 4, that the murmurs started spreading through the gallery. She stepped up to the tee with the same calm she shows at the free throw line, took a smooth, confident swing, and unleashed a drive that sailed down the fairway like it had been laser-guided. When the ball rolled to a stop just 10 yards short of the green, even the commentators couldn't pretend it was normal. One whispered, almost involuntarily, that her swing looked flat-out elite. That wasn't hyperbole. That was the sound of expectations cracking. Each hole after that layered on more disbelief. Her iron shots weren't wild or improvised. They were measured, intentional, like she had walked the course 100 times. Her tempo stayed steady. Her decision-making looked instinctual. And pros who've lived their entire lives on golf courses began trading quiet glances, the kind that say, without words, "This isn't supposed to happen." A basketball star was not only keeping pace with professional golfers, she was outperforming them. Then came the shot that would make the highlight reels, a 47-foot birdie putt on the back nine, the type of attempt most players just hope to get close enough to clean up for par. The crowd watched the ball snake across the green, bending gently with the slope, picking up just enough speed to stay on line. When it dropped into the cup, the explosion of noise was immediate, but it was preceded by a heartbeat of absolute silence, the kind that only follows something unbelievable. People weren't cheering because a celebrity made a long putt. They were reacting to a moment of pure athletic brilliance. Her playing partners that day, world number 1 Nelly Korda and major champion Brooke Henderson, responded not with polite smiles, but with genuine shock. These are women who've seen every variety of great golf in their careers, yet even they were caught off guard by the calmness, the consistency, and the sheer precision of Caitlin's round. Nelly admitted afterward that Caitlin was burying putts from distances the pros themselves struggle with, and she wasn't doing it with desperation or luck. She was doing it with the quiet assurance of someone operating completely in the zone.
By the time Caitlin walked off the 18th green, the whispers had become full-scale chatter. Spectators hovered around the leaderboard, trying to make sense of the number posted beside her name: 61. A score so low it didn't just break the event's record for a non-professional woman, it blew it wide open. That number carried weight. It represented the lowest round ever recorded by a non-pro female golfer in a sanctioned Pro-Am, a performance strong enough to land in the Guinness World Records. And yet, the most powerful part wasn't the record itself. It was the realization settling over everyone who witnessed it. This wasn't a one-off hot streak. This wasn't a celebrity getting lucky. This was the product of discipline, mental toughness, and an athletic ceiling that stretches far beyond a single sport. In one afternoon, Caitlin Clark not only rewrote a piece of golf history, she shattered the boundary that supposedly separates specialists from true all-around competitors. But if that round proved anything, it's that the record was only the beginning, because what it revealed about her mindset sent shockwaves through the sports world, raising a question that became impossible to ignore. How is one athlete able to dominate two completely different arenas with the same relentless precision? And that's where the deeper story begins. What made Caitlin Clark's record-breaking round so unbelievable wasn't just the number on the scorecard. It was the unmistakable signature behind the performance. Every swing, every read, every putt had the same underlying rhythm people have watched her master on the basketball court for years. That icy calm she shows in the final minutes of a close game didn't disappear when she traded sneakers for spikes. It simply transferred to a new arena. And that's the part the highlight reels don't capture. This wasn't a basketball player trying golf. This was a championship-caliber competitor applying the same mental blueprint that made her a generational athlete. You can see it in the way she approached each shot. In basketball, Caitlin thrives under pressure because she can mute the noise and dial in on a single decision at the exact moment most players fall apart. On the course, she used that same clarity. Golf exposes flaws brutally. There's nowhere to hide, no teammates to lean on, no clock to bail you out. It's just you and the next move. And Caitlin handled that isolation like someone who'd been training for it her entire life. Her focus never drifted, her body language never cracked.
Even when standing over that 47-foot putt, she didn't rush, didn't hesitate, didn't overthink. She simply executed. Then there's her spatial awareness, a skill that makes her court vision in basketball look almost supernatural at times. She can sense angles, openings, and trajectories faster than defenders can react. On a golf course, that same instinct translated into reading greens with a level of confidence that didn't match her non-professional label. The way she traced slopes, judged breaks, and adjusted her line wasn't guesswork. It was the same intuitive processing that lets her thread impossible passes through traffic without flinching. And perhaps the most striking crossover was her emotional control. In basketball, Caitlin's known for staying composed even when the stakes skyrocket. She can miss 3 shots in a row and still step into the next one with complete belief. That resilience carried straight into her golf game. A tricky bunker shot or a mishit iron didn't derail her momentum. She reset, recalibrated, and treated each moment as its own challenge, something even seasoned golfers struggle with on their best days. That's not golf experience, that's elite-level mental discipline. What her performance proved is something athletes and coaches talk about, but rarely see in action. True championship DNA doesn't belong to one sport. It lives in the habits, the mindset, the preparation, the willingness to embrace discomfort and treat pressure not as a threat, but as fuel. Caitlin has always operated on that wavelength. The court was just the first place the world recognized it. When you combine that mindset with years of quiet exposure to golf, the results start to make sense. The smooth, powerful swings she's shown at charity events, that's technical refinement built over time. The calmness under pressure, that's muscle memory from thousands of high-stakes moments in packed arenas. The ability to flip a switch and perform when everyone's watching, that's the signature of athletes who excel regardless of environment. So when people ask how Caitlin Clark managed to drop a world record round in an event stacked with professionals, the answer isn't complicated. She didn't bring basketball skills to a golf course. She brought competitiveness at its purest form. She brought the mental structure of someone who has never allowed a moment to be too big. She brought the same internal engine that's pushed her to obliterate scoring records, redefine college basketball, and ignite the WNBA. And that's exactly why her performance didn't just stun golf fans, it set ripples far beyond the sport. Because when an athlete proves their excellence can travel across disciplines, the entire conversation about what they might do next changes instantly. And as the sports world processed what happened, a new narrative began forming, one that reached players, coaches, analysts, and even legends who had never commented on her before. What happened after Caitlin Clark walked off the course with a world record score was almost as shocking as the round itself. Within hours, the performance triggered a wave of attention that stretched far beyond golf circles. Fans who had never watched a full tournament were suddenly scrolling through highlights, searching for clips of that 47-foot putt, and asking how a basketball phenom just outplayed seasoned competitors in their own domain. It didn't take long for the numbers to confirm what people were feeling. Caitlin's impact wasn't a moment, it was a cultural shift happening in real time. The LPGA's social media accounts saw an immediate surge in followers, gathering hundreds of thousands of new eyes in just a couple of days. The replay of the Pro-Am event generated ratings that networks usually expect only during major championships, not charity pairings. Comment sections filled with new fans, many of them young women, who admitted they tuned in purely because Caitlin was involved. They weren't longtime golfers, they weren't tracking rankings or stats. They were there because Caitlin made the sport feel accessible, exciting, and suddenly cool. That kind of crossover attention isn't common. It's the type of momentum that entire leagues dream of building.
But the ripple effect didn't stop with the audience. Inside the golf world, players and insiders began acknowledging something unusual was happening. Athletes who normally keep their reactions measured were openly praising her precision and composure.
Commentators who had covered golf for decades said they'd never seen a non-pro dominate a pro-am with that level of confidence. And behind the scenes, a buzz began circulating that this event might have long-term consequences for how casual fans engage with women's golf. Then came the reactions from other sports, fast, loud, and unanimous. WNBA legends, NBA stars, Olympic champions, they all joined the conversation in real time. Some praised her athletic versatility. Others joked about recruiting her to exhibitions. But the message underneath it all was the same. Caitlin Clark had done something extraordinary, something that resonated far beyond the boundaries of one sport. She'd captured attention in a way that felt bigger, broader, and more impactful than a typical viral moment. Of course, the loudest reaction came from one of the most influential athletes in golf history. When Tiger Woods personally acknowledged her round, without PR filters, without hesitation, it sent the internet into a frenzy. Tiger speaks selectively. He rarely comments on cross-sport performances, and when he does, it's because the moment actually warrants his attention. His message didn't sound like polite applause. It sounded like recognition, respect, acknowledgement that her execution carried the rare combination of talent and mental strength that transcends any one field. And that's where the story took another turn. As Tiger's words spread, whispers began circulating about a new wave of interest from major golf brands. Reports started surfacing, clearly framed as speculation, that companies known for signing the biggest names in golf were exploring the possibility of bringing Caitlin into the fold. Not as a casual ambassador, not as a novelty, but as a legitimate crossover athlete who could influence two sports at once. If even part of those rumors turn out to be true, Caitlin could become the first modern athlete to hold major endorsement deals in both basketball and golf simultaneously, a commercial lane that almost no one has ever occupied. And the reason is simple. She doesn't just boost viewership, she moves culture. Basketball arenas reached record attendance numbers because of her. Merchandise sales hit unprecedented highs. Television ratings spiked every time she stepped onto the court. And now, in a completely different sport, we're seeing the exact same pattern. A single performance sparked measurable growth, renewed interest, and an influx of fresh fans who felt connected to the moment she created. This is the difference between being a star and being a catalyst. Stars shine brightly on their own stage. Catalysts change the shape of the entire landscape around them. Caitlin Clark is showing the world again that when her name enters a conversation, the audience doesn't just show up. They follow, they invest, and expand the reach of whatever she touches. And as the reactions poured in, one question started surfacing everywhere, from analysts, fans, marketing executives, and even athletes in other sports. If Caitlin Clark can transform basketball and send shockwaves through golf with a single appearance, what exactly is she capable of influencing next? As the impact of Caitlin Clark's record-breaking round settled, one thing became immediately clear. This moment wasn't the climax of her story. It was the opening act of a much bigger shift. Athletes occasionally go viral, occasionally surprise people, occasionally stumble into cross-sport success. But what Caitlin just demonstrated wasn't an accident or a one-off burst of momentum. It was a preview, a signal, a glimpse of what happens when someone with generational competitiveness steps beyond the boundaries of a single game and begins shaping the narrative of multiple sports at once. The questions that surfaced in the days that followed didn't sound like typical fan chatter. They sounded like speculation reserved for the rarest kind of athlete, the ones who redefine how we talk about talent. Will Caitlin enter more high-level golf events? Will networks begin pushing for crossover exhibitions? Will charity tournaments start building their rosters around her name? Will other leagues, knowing her magnetic pull, try to bring her into their orbit for special appearances? No one knows the answers yet, but the fact that these conversations are even happening says everything about where this moment fits in the bigger picture. And the speculations about her future weren't limited to golf. Fans started imagining what she could accomplish in sports that reward spatial awareness, precision, or mental toughness. skills she's already displayed at a level most athletes never reach. Could she excel in pickleball? Could she thrive in a long drive contest? Could she dominate a celebrity tennis exhibition the same way she did this Pro-Am? It's all theoretical, of course, but that's the point. When someone has shown they can translate elite focus into any competitive environment, the limits stop feeling fixed. They start feeling negotiable.
But the bigger story isn't about potential appearances or possible events. It's about what Caitlin represents right now. Her rise is forcing a deeper conversation about how talent is recognized, respected, and valued across sports. For years, athletes were boxed into categories. Basketball players stayed basketball players. Golfers stayed golfers. But Caitlin's emergence as a genuine multi-sport force challenges that idea. It shows that excellence isn't always tied to one set of rules or one set of lines on the floor. Sometimes it's tied to the way someone thinks, the way they prepare, the way they thrive under pressure. That's why so many young athletes gravitate to her. They're not just seeing success, they're seeing possibility. They're watching someone prove that you don't have to limit yourself to one identity or one lane. You can build a foundation strong enough to support whatever challenge you choose to take on. You can bring your discipline from one world into another and trust that the habits you've built will hold you up anywhere. Caitlin's journey is becoming a blueprint, a reminder that greatness is a transferable language spoken across all disciplines. In interviews after her historic round, she said she simply wanted to have fun and enjoy the mental break that golf gives her. But anyone paying attention could see something deeper in those words. Even at rest, her competitive instincts never switch off. She doesn't approach anything halfway. She doesn't coast. She doesn't do casual. That mindset is the reason this moment felt bigger than one round. It felt like the start of a new chapter in how we view cross-sport athletes, particularly women. It showed that the line between disciplines isn't a wall, it's a doorway. And as the world continues to watch her next moves, one truth has become undeniable. The Caitlin Clark era isn't confined to basketball, and it isn't stopping at golf. It's expanding into culture, into endorsements, into influence, into spaces no one expected her to transform. She's not just breaking records, she's rewriting expectations. She's reshaping the blueprint for what an all-around athlete can be in the modern era. So what's coming next? Maybe more golf, maybe new sports, maybe partnerships that merge worlds no one thought would collide, or maybe something even more unexpected, something only she can see coming. But whatever direction she chooses, one thing is certain. She's operating in a territory we've rarely seen before, a place where potential feels limitless and every decision has the power to shift an entire landscape. Because this isn't just the story of a basketball star trying a new hobby. This is what happens when championship DNA meets unbounded opportunity, and the world is finally realizing just how far that combination can reach.